You know what I'm saying? Dorado does he think the Mets are in the playoffs or something? Oh, I got you. Honestly, he's probably still sleeping, right? Okay. The tape kind of told the story that we did after the game. Once we made a couple corrections on defense and then cleaned up a few things on offense. Our guys played very well in the last game, and so that was a good game for us. Need a great week of preparation for these guys. This is, in my opinion, the most athletic team from top to bottom in this league. In just watching the little bit that I've seen, now I haven't studied everybody in the league, but I've seen quite a bit of crossover tape. So we'll need a great week of practice, continue to improve in a few things on special teams that I talked about after the game, location of kicks, decisions we're making in a return game, and we did improve some in coverage. Punt coverage and kick coverage will be very important in this game with the skill that Texas has on the back end. So we'll try to stay balanced on offense. It's what we do. Defensively, we'll need to tackle well in space. The quarterback's playing good. He throws it, can run it. He does a little bit of everything. So bigger, more physical backs, skill on the perimeter. I mean, everybody knows who it is and what we're playing. So just continue to move forward and try to have a great week of practice.
You talking about a quarterback that can run. You can tackle well in space. Does a guy like Justin Phillips, especially coming off the game that he had, become an even more important guy?
Sure, they're going to try to spread you out and use him as a running back. I mean, that's what I see from outside looking in, and it gives them a man advantage. Backers have to tackle well in space, and to a certain extent, it becomes a fairly easy game to find out what's happening. You got to get guys down and try to keep them under 4 yards per carry. And they're using him in my opinion, as a running back. They want him to get over 4.5 yards a carry on offense, and so our guys will certainly have to compete and be able to get him down.
In general, how well has Justin been playing for you?
He continues to get better each week. We need to keep him fresh and healthy. He's learning the game, really starting to understand being a full-time starter and seeing a lot of things differently. At his spot, it could be similar to the way a quarterback sees a game, because he has to see so many different blocking schemes, running back alignments, pass, run, pop pass, misdirection, so on and so forth. It just takes a little time.
You mentioned back in the spring that you wanted to see like a JW wall type package. Obviously, you guys showcased that this past week with Justin Hill. What did you see in that? To where do you think that's going to continue to be a successful option, or is it someone else going to potentially have to run that wildcat formation?
Are you asking about with Justice? Well, we struggled in the red zone against Tech. It might have got blown out of proportion a little bit based on 1st and goal at the 9 and the 9 and the 8, which percentages go down considerably in those situations. But either way, we felt like that we needed some improvement in that area for the last month. Mason's been tremendous in what we've asked him to do in running the ball, but he's obviously not going to be a guy that's going to carry it like JW did. So we felt like that would give us a little something, and it helped us in this game. I don't know if it's a long-term answer, depending on who we play, how we match up front, can play a role in those decisions. But I was comfortable with it from last week.
Advantage to the Cowboys with Texas coming off a OU Texas loss?
Oh, I don't know anymore. I can't tell with young people. I mentioned this with what Coach Saban said about rat poison and kids listening to what's being said outside. That is something that he says I would agree with. But I don't know anymore how it affects anybody. The only thing that we can go on is our history here, and in my experience with being here a long time, is that if they focus well and prepare well and can avoid distractions, you have a chance. If you get caught up in different things, whatever it is, and you don't prepare well or focus, then you're probably not going to play very well. I don't have the answer for why that happens at times, but I just know in my history that can be a big factor. And I can't tell anymore if it matters if you're coming off a win or a loss.
The way Baylor started the game Saturday, kind of sat on the ball for 6 minutes and seemed to take the TCU game plan where keep the ball away from your offense. Is that how you anticipate a lot of teams down the stretch trying to handle you guys?
Oh, Mark. You would have to ask them. That looked like that was their approach. And the reason it looked good is because we let them do it in the first drive. They used about they used a lot of the clock, almost 7 minutes, I think, and then scored a touchdown. Those things only work if you score. It's like having an offense that plays fast like us. It's a great offense if you score. If you don't score, it's not a very good offense. But it looked like that was their thought. We're going to try to, not only by total number of runs, but by the way they allowed the clock to run and snapped it with 3 seconds. It looked like that was their approach. I will admit that it was not what I was anticipating. They had started to go more toward in the other direction of style of offense. But maybe in the open week they went back to what their basic principles are and went a little different direction.
Mike, and defensive coordinators trying to find ways to handle the offenses in this league. I've seen a lot of things, but it seems like defensive coordinators are getting more imaginative. I look at some of the stuff Orlando's done at Texas, some of the stuff Glenn's done here, just in alignment, and then, they might zone off one side and then blitz hard off the other edge, even leave the middle open. Have you seen some defensive stuff this year that's like, wow, that's different?
There's more exotic looks than what we've seen in the past, but I said this early in the year. You have very good skill players in this league. You're getting great quarterback play, and then your other teams are using quarterbacks running the ball as an equalizer if they don't feel like they're getting that potential output. So you're seeing a lot of offensive production. But look at the quarterbacks in this league and look how well they're playing. And when that happens, it can be difficult to slow down an offense.
What changes or differences have you seen with them under Tom Herman so far?
Well, scheme-wise, considerable difference in they want to be in a lot of empty. They want the quarterback to run the football. Defensively, a few more different looks in what you would have seen in the past. More blitz, more pressure. Going to play some man, play some zone pressure. So, and then special teams. Not a lot of difference, but want to get returns, want to block you up front and let those skill kids make plays in the back end in special teams.
Can you talk about Aitman and what he's shown you this year, coming back from his injury and all that?
He's been very good. We anticipated him playing well. He was without it for a year, and he realized how much he loved the game. Sometimes that's one of the best things that can happen to a young player. And he's used his body. He's got terrific hands, and he's got good body control. And he's played the role that really benefits our offense.
How good is he, Mike? Say you didn't have James Washington. Is he a number one type guy on the team without James?
The advantage we have with these guys now, John, is that James has an uncanny ability to run really fast down the field, and then when the ball's in the air, he never slows down. Most wide receivers, even really good ones, and I said this on my radio show. I got the same question this morning, so some of you may have already heard it, but if a guy's running down the field and let's just say he's running 4 or 5, the ball's thrown in the air. Once their eyes see the ball, most kids will slow down and try to get in a comfort zone to catch the ball and such. And James does not do that. James accelerates even more. Why he's able to do that, I don't know, but he can. And then, so what that does is that allows him to play the role he plays on one side of the field, and then Aitman plays a different type of game on the other side. He can be more of a control guy, a rebound guy, body control. and he uses, you know, strong hands with good reach. So they offset themselves really well. James doesn't get a lot of catches because of the way people play a lot. Some teams choose to take him out, and then, you know, we have to play on the other side of the field or play in the middle of the field. But the two of them work well together. And you know, Aitman's going to get a chance to play this game beyond this level because of what he brings to the table. I've never coached in the NFL, so I don't know a lot about it, but I know there's a lot of man coverage, and he's got a body that can be hard to defend in man coverage. And then he blocks really well. He's been really good without the ball in his hands, and he'll be a good special teams player.
From his early time here, is that maybe the thing that stands out the most? Is maybe he's become a more physical player. He's shoving guys to the ground,
Right.
farms, and like you said, blocking down the field.
Well, you remember when he got here, it took him a year to get going, you know, being a good student, showing up on time, just kind of buying into our culture. But since then, he's been really good. And then he got hurt, and he's come back even more hungry. And he likes to play the game. He likes to catch. He likes to block. Some guys don't care to do that as much at that position. He does. And I'm sure he's aware the more he does that, it's going to improve his stock. Not only is it good for our team and him, but it's going to improve his stock, and I'm sure he's aware of that situation.
Coach, Rudolph seems to miss some throws high early in games. That seems to be his weakness. Is that something that he's identified and he works on throughout the week?
Oh, I'm not sure. He makes a considerable number of throws in between the hashes where he's reading inside or outside linebackers on deciding what to do, whether to give it or throw it. And so there are times where he's making sure that he gets the ball over the front level. He's always trying to adjust his throws, probably too much. He works too much at it. I think the other thing that people lose sight of with him is this. He throws the ball further down the field than anybody else in the country, more times. So your accuracy is not going to look as good as a guy that would be in so-called West Coast system where he's making a lot of throws inside the numbers, no more than 12 yards. He throws the ball a long ways, down the field, across the middle, 15 yards, 25-yard outcuts, deep post down the field. So a lot of times people don't take into account how far he's throwing the ball down the field.
Because of that, have you had to manage his throwing in practice differently than you have other guys?
He won't listen anyway, does what he wants to do. The only thing that I was able to do was in our open week, I told him I didn't want him to throw a ball Sunday through Sunday, and he didn't. That's the only time. Other than that, we try to reduce the number of throws just based on, you know, there's some science now that they're showing that football players are having the same issues as baseball players with their arms from wear and tear and all the 7-on-7 these kids do in the summers now. And like he came from a system, they did all those 7-on-7s all summer long, 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th grade, and then threw it all the time, then came here in comparison to high school kids years ago that didn't do that. It's total number of throws on your arm. So we've tried to reduce him, but he's a workaholic. He just does it all the time. You can't really stop him, but he should cut back on his number of throws, yes.
Is that also something like those throws you're describing, deep down between the hashes? Is that also maybe the place he's made the greatest improvement over his time here?
No, he has. He's much better here in a lot of areas. He'll miss some throws. We all miss throws. You can turn the TV on tonight and watch the guys play in the big leagues, and they'll miss some throws. So we don't want him to, and he doesn't want to, but he's been a perfectionist in trying to improve his game. And there are times he does complete passes and they're still kind of high. And I think it's based on him trying to avoid the underneath coverage in a lot of the RPO system that we have here. But he does throw a high percentage of balls during a game further down the field than most kids would throw. I mean, he could very well throw in the last, let's just say in the last 4 games, he could very well have thrown more balls down the field than most kids will throw in an entire season in a game, if you just do the numbers.
You mentioned you never coached in the NFL, but you've talked to a lot of NFL people, and because of who you've got on your team this year, you just got finished talking about Mason and how he may fit some teams better than others.
Mm-hmm.
Can you kind of tell what's going on? Do you get enough scouts or coaches or people, or is it too early for them that they call you and say, hey, I kind of want to know what you think about this kid? James and
oh,
Mason
well,
and all
they like our guys. You know, my comment to them is I give them information on what kind of people they are, their commitment to this program, their commitment to themselves and society, and then never try to interfere with how good they are, because that's their job. They pay those guys millions of dollars to figure that out. I figure they got enough guys to figure out if they're any good or not. But they like our guys just kind of based on what they stand for, and they know that they're going to make decisions that are going to help themselves and help the organization that they play for, and I think it benefits them. But there's certainly a number of guys who will have an opportunity off this year's group.
Texas defense only giving up about 25 points a game.
Mm-hmm.
What do they kind of hang their hat off of that you've seen so far from film?
Oh, well, they're physical up front. I mean, they're gonna get off blocks and they run to the ball, and they're athletic. It's not any different than it's ever been. They're not playing with guys that are brought into the program to be developed. They're playing with guys that have come in the program developed. Okay, and it's always been that way, regardless. I say that since I've been back here in 2000, certainly, and they. You know, they're starting off with a good product and developing them and bringing them into where they can make quality plays. And so when you have a number of guys out there that fit the size based on the position they're playing and can run really, really well, then you're going to be able to limit some people to some pretty average numbers on offense.
Why do you think you've had the success you've had in Austin down there? What do you think?
I mean, we've had good players. When we've won down there, we've had, I mean, I guess you could go back and research. We're probably getting good quarterback play. We've had good teams. We've had skill kids that can make plays in space. You have to have skill kids that can make plays in space against them. And we just had quality kids that, you know, going to go down and play hard. I think our players enjoy this game. Most of them know all the guys on their team and things like that from high school and being in 7-on-7 tournaments and whatever it is they do. So I think they enjoy the game.
From an emotional standpoint, with all the kids you recruit from Texas, is this really kind of more their, I hate to use the term, they're more their bedlam, maybe than even the OU game?
There's so many games now are big games. You know, college football's got the market on the future here based on the 14 playoff and specifically this league based on the conference championship game being the top 2 teams. So people want to watch every game we play because it matters. You know, it's not like basketball. You know, you can lose 10 games in basketball and still be a national champion. You know, in baseball, you can lose 20 games and still be a national champion because not every game matters. In football, every single game matters. So you don't see as much put into one game or another like it used to be. Because if you don't play well and you lose a game, you lessen your chances on what could be your long-term goal. And it's each week. You know, that goes back into the parity that we talked about. It's what makes it so interesting in this league is that you have to play pretty well each week from here on out for the most part. If not, you know, you get a chance to get knocked out.
Do you feel like there was a turning point, Mike, for winning down there at all?
Us winning down there?
Yeah, because you.
Oh yeah. We've gone through that. You know, we had I don't know, I can't remember what it was. We obviously didn't play them every year because they were in the Southwest Conference, but we hadn't won there since before World War I, right? Something like that. So that was a big deal to win down there. Probably not as big as when we won at Nebraska. We hadn't won at Nebraska, I think, since '38 or something, and we played there every other year for a long time. But you certainly have to get over the hump at some point. And when we won down there, whatever year it was, I think that kind of helped our players realize it was possible.
Now you've done something that nobody else has done, which is win down there 4 times in a row.
Yeah, again, we had good players. You know, we've been lucky around here. We've had good quality young men that make plays, and they understand commitment to each other. That allows us to be somewhat successful on the road.
Do you feel like you have to do anything this week to rebuild Jalen's confidence on punt returns, or how do you plan to kind of solidify it?
I was going to open that up for topic of conversation if anybody out there has any ideas. Been an interesting situation. Prior to this year, he's been somewhat flawless and been very good. He has not been good this year. He's essentially been bad on 4 of 9 occasions, which is almost 50%. So we've put some thought into that. I don't have an answer right now. It's not something I haven't thought about, usually right up until I go to sleep. But we certainly can't afford to turn the ball over when we get them stopped, okay? We get them stopped and make them kick a field goal. We have to be sound and make sure we defend it. Don't put him back on the field. We stop them, get a punt, can't put them back on the field. It becomes a numbers game. And so moving forward, particularly this week, you have special team play, turnovers, and penalties will be a huge factor. So that's obviously part of it. But I have not come up with an answer for where he's at right now.
Talk about some of the things Jordan Brelford and Beal have shown you to get those starting jobs at defensive end.
Those guys have played well. We've been able to keep them healthy. I had concerns early in the year whether we could keep them healthy playing at a pretty high number of plays at their positions. And, you know, this is the first time the Villies really ever played. Brelford had a good year a couple of years ago, and he was in there a lot. So we expected that if he would stay healthy. But with Villy, he's coming on and getting better. You know, he's an example of the more you play, you gain experience, and you kind of get used to seeing things and get better at it.
Mike, I know you're a week-to-week focused guy, but when you've got a stretch like this coming up, you know, do you have to pull back at all? Do you have to manage things differently at all?
Yeah, we're not in that position like we would do in September, based on if we were playing teams in September that we thought that we were more talented than and could put some energy in reserve. We're not in that position right now. We've got to do whatever we can do to maximize Tuesday and Wednesday, and then try to get in position to play the best we can Saturday. Arguably playing the most athletic team in the conference. I mean, I don't know, but that's just me from an outsider looking in. So we certainly can't hold anything back. We have to try to do everything that's possible for us to play well enough to win on Saturday.
Back on the punt returns, what do you want out of whoever you put back there? You just want them right now to just catch the ball?
Well, that's what I did. That's what I did after Saturday. But we've got to play. We got to, you take a guy that's a 3-point shooter and he's made 3-pointers and he misses a bunch of them. You can't tell him to not shoot him, or you got to take him out of the game. And that's really where we're at with McCleskey. He's got to go play, or we just got to take him out of the game. I've never been a big fan of trying to put a guy in a role and not letting him play the game. And so we did that with 80 the first couple times, and then we said we got to let him go. Maybe because we got ahead by 21 points, so it was easier to say let him go. But so we have to make a decision this week. We put McCleskey out there and let him play, or we take him off the field and let somebody else play.
I mean, typically, a team like yours, or in years past, how many guys you got that are a viable option? A guy that can catch it and do something with it after?
We've never had more than 4.
Right. So
Now, there could be some guys out there that we don't know about, but early in the year, I always tell everybody, if you can catch a punt and return it, you need to come see us. We need to know, because it's not an easy task. And I've said this, I would never want to be back there fielding a punt with those guys running at me like that. So I understand the issue. We've not ever really had more than 4 people that could do it consistently enough that we felt comfortable in doing it in conference play. So that's kind of where we're at right now.
When you ask anybody can do it, come see it, how many people come and see?
Over a period of the last 3 or 4 years, I've had a couple guys come up and say, I did it and whatever. And we had one guy that was pretty good at it, and the other guys were okay. We've been fortunate over the years. Parrish Cox was a great returner. Gilbert was a great returner. And then obviously Tyreek was a great returner. Josh Stewart. We've had some guys that could make some plays. So it would certainly benefit our team if we could find somebody that can make a play back there, because it's a threat. And right now we're not a threat.
Why is it so hard to find a guy who can fit that role?
It's just hard to catch a ball that's 150 feet in the air, and it's moving, and the sun's up, and the wind's blowing, and there's 6 guys running downfield with a 40-yard head start waiting to hit you. It's just kind of an intimidating factor. And it's not the easiest thing to do when a ball's coming straight down, and particularly when the wind's blowing, and we play in a lot of wind in this part of the country. Like Saturday, that ball, the wind was coming from different directions, but when he punted that one, it ended up being in a kind of a crosswind, and then the punt wasn't very good, so it was coming straight down, and the wind was blowing, and it just dropped straight down on him. So it's just not an easy task, in my opinion.
That said, what does that say about Tyler Wallace, that you guys have the confidence to put a true freshman out there?
Put him out there and play. Tylen's a gym rat. He does a lot of things, very athletic. Seems to be somewhat, he seems to avoid things that could fluster him at an early age. He doesn't give you the deer in the headlight look. So, if a guy can do it, he can do it. I mean, we've had freshmen here that have been returners, both in kickoff and punt, or early sophomores that have been good at it. And I think that's one of the arts where you're either good at it or you're not. And I'm going to go back to why this question got originally asked, was because what's puzzling me is McCleskey's been good at it for a couple of years. And that's what's kind of thrown me off a little bit.
What went into taking your shirt off the other night?
Couple things to start with. One thing you lose in college is you miss the high school pep assembly on Fridays. That the time you spend with your teammates, your classmates, and all those things. When you get to college, you just don't have that feel. Now, on homecoming here, we do. We have the largest homecoming in the country. We have 60,000 people here on Friday night, with 10,000 people in that arena, I guess, 8,000, I don't know, a bunch of people there. All your Greek system that's been here working for 2.5, 3 months, putting those floats together and all night pumping and all that, and they're all excited. We had a high school coach, an assistant coach, that I remembered at times that would do crazy things at pep assemblies, and the players loved it, and the students loved it, and I thought, obviously that was a pretty cool deal, because in it being 30-something years later, I still remember those things. And so I didn't plan on any of it. I actually thought about it about a month ago, about assemblies, because I have a kid that's in high school football now, and so I just wondered if they ever had one over there. And so when I got there the other night and introduced them, of course, they all go crazy over Mason. He's fortunate to be a nice-looking guy and a good player and all that stuff, nice, good kid. So people like him, so they're all going crazy and all this and that. And so I said, you ought to take your shirt off for him. And, Mason, he looked at me like, his eyes got like this big, That's just not his nature. He would prefer to be at a lake throwing a football to somebody on a jet ski or something like that. But regardless, he kind of gave me that look, and I said, hey, they're all screaming, going crazy for you, what's the big deal? You're going to go to the pros next year anyway, whatever. And he kind of looked at me and whatever. I couldn't get him to do it. I said, I tell you what, I'll take my shirt off if you'll take your shirt off. And then he kind of bought in a little bit. He was still kind of scared. But then when he did it, I said, oh, heck, I got to do it now. So the only bad thing was I said after the game that when I got home, of course, I got it. Kristen said it made her kind of throw up in her mouth a little bit, which I understand. But they enjoyed it. I would bet you that you could take a poll 20 years from now of some of the people that were there, and the one thing they would tell you was that about Mason and I taking our shirt off, and we had a lot of fun. If you can't have fun doing this, probably not worth it. So we had a good time.
Any surprising reactions so far from them?
Well, I'm not in that social media world, but my kids are. I had last night, one of my kids came in my office and said that, you made Faceboard for Snapchat, is it? Or I don't know what it's called. Does anybody know? What is it? Yeah, where it's like the cover page for Snapchat worldwide. And he goes, and he said, you were right up there next to the Kardashians. I said, well, hell, I got it going on then. I'm better at that than I am coaching. And which that meant nothing to me, but they said, that's like a worldwide deal. That's a big deal. I said, that's awesome. So what'd you say, John?
You referenced at one point earlier this year, Gary Player and the ESPN body issue.
Yeah.
Are you working towards that?
Oh, no, I don't. No, I'm not. I'm just trying to work out enough to stay alive, as we get older, and it gets more painful every day, as we all know. But I just, wanted to have fun, and Mason and I have had a great career here together. I mean, we spent over the last couple of years, he and I have gotten really close in things we do, and we do game planning together. I don't game plan as much, but we go over it together, and we've had a great relationship, and that's a special. I've been lucky. I've had the Josh Fields, I've had the Zach Robinsons. The 1 year with Chelf was special. I've had the J.W. Walsh. I've had Whedon and him, and that's a pretty special deal for me because that's the world I lived in, and so he and I need to spend some time together and do things like that. I just think that's important.
If Pat Jones would have challenged you at a pep rally to go shirtless, you as a player, would you have?
Sure. And I would have asked that he not take his off in the same instant. So, no, but Coach, I'm sure that Coach thought that if you would ask him about that from the other night, he would say he would term that as total recess. And that's not real football, and I can't actually believe you did. Well, no, he would say I can believe you did it, but he would say that's total recess. He would not consider that part of the game.
Like you mentioned all the quarterbacks you've had.
Mm-hmm.
Robinson, Brandon,
Mm-hmm.
all of that. Texas trots out a new guy every year, it seems like. I think it's your 7th in 8 years. What kind of stability have your quarterbacks given you? Guys that you've had 2 and 3 years
Right.
on the job, and they haven't had that, and the one-loss record seems to indicate what it means.
Yeah, I think we all agree that quarterback play is so vital, and we've been very fortunate here. When you look at the guys that we've had here, Josh Fields was not recruited. Zach Robinson was about a 2-star. I think it was us in Kansas State. Clint Chelf was not heavily recruited. Brandon Whedon was a walk-on that nobody knew anything about. J.W. Walsh was fairly heavily recruited. And then Mason was a 3-star guy. And so we've been very fortunate that we've been able to develop them here. And I've been fortunate in that the guys that I've had Fedora here, I've had Dana here, I had Monken here, and then Mike's been really good at developing quarterbacks. So I've been very fortunate that we've had coaches that can develop guys. I would not enjoy running a new guy out there every year. And just look how much better that Mason's improved just in the last 10 or 12 games and where he goes with the ball. Meaning, you guys can go back to 20 games ago. I don't know, how many games has he played, 30? Okay, so let's just say go back, go back 20 games and then 4, 5, 6 games. He made a lot of throws where he was throwing the ball in places that everybody was like, what are you doing? Well, that's because he didn't know yet. In his last 10 or 12 games dating back to the middle of last season, he might have missed some throws, like he missed the overthrew the 25-yard outcut over there in the first half on 3rd and 12. Aben's wide open. But his ability to get the ball where it's supposed to be by knowing what to do is through the roof. And so that's where he's made great strides in learning the system that we have. Yeah, whatever. But I'm just saying he's got considerably better over the last 15 games or so at getting the ball in the right spot to the right person.
Coach, when you talk about managing schedules and everything, How much does your preparation change, especially on like walkthrough days before you leave, especially when you have an early kickoff, in places where you have to travel a little bit longer than you may have had to?
The only adjustment we make is we will bump everything up a couple, 3 hours in case we have some sort of a mechanical issue with a plane or a plane comes in late. You know, we're still subject to weather. Different things can happen. So when we have 11 o'clock kick Saturday and next week. So we'll move everything up 2 or 3 hours, and just so we can make sure that we get there, and if there's issues, we don't come in too late at night, so we can get them on the ground. It takes them a little while to rehydrate. The 300-pound guys being in the air, you know, flying at 30,000 feet is not real good for their bodies. We'll get them there, get them hydrated, get them back to normal, so on and so forth, let them eat, let them rest. And then that way we can kind of manufacture a normal day or normal function for their bodies, you know, before they have to eat pregame at 7:30 in the morning.
You mentioned that you have a couple of morning workouts throughout the week, and how that does maybe that helps you with 11 a.m. starts.
It does. I think it does.
Is that something you decided based on the possibility of 11
Really,
starts?
class schedules. They lift a couple times a week, and there's not really a time to fit it in based on their class schedules, and so they do it in the mornings. You know, the one thing that's interesting about these guys is being in the system and the culture that we're in, which could be fairly consistent across the country, I don't know, but they're pretty good at getting up in the morning, a lot better than what would be a normal student, just based on the lifestyle that they live. They're used to getting up a lot. So the 11 o'clock kickoffs probably fans aren't a big, they're not in favor of it, and maybe other people, but it doesn't really affect us much, I don't think. Good. All right, thanks.